Even when it seems like she has moved on, there are subtle ways she continues to show her presence in your life. These moments may be small, almost imperceptible, but they carry weight. She might remember a detail you mentioned weeks ago, ask about something that matters to you, or send a simple message without any particular reason. At first, it may feel easy to dismiss these actions as coincidence or politeness, but a closer look often reveals intention. Stoicism teaches us to observe life carefully, to notice the signals without letting our minds wander into assumptions or fears. The key is to see these gestures for what they are, evidence that she is not entirely detached from your shared connection. When she reacts to something you post on social media, perhaps liking it or commenting with a tone only you would understand, it is a small but deliberate way of maintaining a thread between your worlds. It is easy to underestimate the importance of such gestures, but they're often stronger than grand statements, for they reveal an ongoing engagement that does not require words. What makes these signals particularly significant is their subtlety. They are not always bold, they are not always consistent, and they often appear at moments when you least expect them. This inconsistency is not a sign of indifference, but a reflection of human complexity. She may be navigating her own emotions, testing boundaries, or simply unsure of how much to reveal. The Stoic approach is to observe these subtleties with calm clarity. Instead of jumping to conclusions or allowing your imagination to create false hopes, you note the pattern and recognize it as part of the natural human experience. Stoicism is not about suppressing awareness, but about seeing clearly and responding with reason rather than reaction. Each small message, each remembered detail is like a gentle reminder that the bond between you is not entirely severed, and that in the human heart, presence often lingers longer than words suggest. It is also important to remember that engagement comes in many forms. Sometimes it is a spontaneous laugh at a shared joke or a thoughtful comment when you are struggling. These actions are quiet affirmations, yet they are deliberate. She chooses, even subconsciously, to remain part of your emotional landscape. Recognizing this requires patience and attention, virtues celebrated in Stoic philosophy. Stoics remind us that the world is full of signals if we have the eyes to see them. And part of wisdom is learning to differentiate between what is within our control and what is not. Her subtle gestures are within her control, and your awareness and interpretation are within yours. Observing them without expectation allows you to respond with grace without clinging or forcing meaning where it may not exist. At the same time, these small acts of engagement are a mirror, reflecting not only her lingering attachment, but also your own capacity for presence and attentiveness. You are learning to notice what truly matters, to perceive human emotion with precision, and to hold your own responses in balance. Stoicism teaches that understanding life is not about possessing or controlling others, but about cultivating inner virtue and clarity. When you see her subtle signals, you are practicing the art of discernment, embracing patience, and maintaining calm awareness. Even in the quietest gestures, there is a story of connection, of human vulnerability, and enduring attention. She may not speak the words, but her presence is evident in small, deliberate ways. Stoicism encourages us to acknowledge reality as it is, appreciating the meaning without being consumed by desire or expectation. In these gentle signs, you find clarity, insight, and an opportunity to act with reason rather than impulse. This is where understanding truly begins, where patience and observation reveal the truth of her lingering presence. One of the most confusing aspects of human connection is the presence of mixed signals. She may seem warm and attentive one day, full of laughter and engagement, and then distant the next, leaving you questioning what it all means. These fluctuations can be frustrating and even painful, but they are not necessarily a sign of indifference or the end of the connection. Stoicism teaches us to observe life without letting our emotions dictate our judgment. Mixed signals are a natural reflection of human complexity, the shifting tides of emotion that cannot always be neatly categorized. when she pulls away does not erase the moments when she was present. When she engages, it does not always guarantee permanence. The wisdom lies in noticing these movements calmly without allowing them to destabilize your sense of inner equilibrium. Ambiguity often arises because emotions are rarely simple or linear. She may be processing her own feelings, dealing with uncertainty, or balancing her desire for connection with fear of vulnerability. Stoics remind us that we cannot control another person's inner world, and trying to force clarity is a path to frustration. Instead, the task is to perceive the reality of her behavior with impartiality. Mixed signals in this sense are not obstacles but information. Each instance of warmth or withdrawal provides insight into her state of mind, offering a chance to understand her motives without judgment. Observing these patterns rather than reacting impulsively allows you to respond with reason rather than anxiety. Another aspect to consider is the subtle communication embedded within ambiguity. Sometimes her distant behavior is not meant to push you away, but to test the strength of the bond, to see if it can endure uncertainty. Sometimes her engagement is a gentle nudge, a signal that she still values the connection even when her words or actions are inconsistent. Stoicism encourages us to see this not as a personal affront, but as a reflection of human nature, of the ebb and flow of emotions that everyone experiences. By maintaining composure and patience, you acknowledge her humanity and your own, cultivating a balanced perspective in the face of uncertainty. This pattern of mixed signals also provides an opportunity for reflection on your own responses. When faced with ambiguity, do you react with panic, insecurity, or frustration, or do you maintain calm observation and self-control? Stoics teach that your response is always within your control, even when another's behavior is not. By practicing patience and equanimity, you turn moments of confusion into opportunities for growth, learning to remi. End-centered even when the situation is unclear. Mixed signals then become a training ground for virtue, teaching resilience, discernment, and emotional clarity. It is important to note that ambiguity does not diminish the value of connection. Each moment of attention, each instance of engagement, even when interspersed with distance, signals that she is still present in your life in some form. Stoicism reminds us to observe reality as it is, accepting imperfection and uncertainty without trying to impose false order. Understanding mixed signals in this way transforms them from sources of frustration into insights about human behavior and emotional patterns. Ultimately, ambiguity is not a barrier to understanding, but a pathway to deeper awareness. By calmly observing her fluctuations, you gain insight into the nature of attachment, the subtlety of emotions, and the art of responding with virtue rather than desire. Mixed signals are not a puzzle to solve through insistence or pressure, but a reflection of the human condition, a lesson in patience and perception. Recognizing this allows you to navigate the relationship with clarity, discernment, and equanimity, honoring both her complexity and your own inner stability. Sometimes the clearest signs of lingering connection are not spoken aloud. She may not directly tell you how she feels, yet her intentions reveal themselves through subtle, indirect communication. This might be a shared joke only the two of you understand, a story she recalls from a moment you experienced together, or even a gentle tease that shows she remembers you in ways others might not. These gestures are quiet, almost hidden, yet they are deliberate acts of engagement. Stoicism teaches us to notice such nuances without being carried away by desire or expectation. The purpose is not to decode every action obsessively, but to observe calmly and à part. Eciate the reality of her continued presence. Indirect communication is often more revealing than explicit statements because it is authentic, unguarded, and unconstrained by formal declarations. Humans are naturally cautious with their emotions. Expressing attachment or lingering affection openly can make one feel vulnerable, exposed, or uncertain of the other's response. That is why many of these signals appear in indirect forms. Stoic philosophy reminds us that people act according to their nature, and their behaviors are shaped by circumstance, past experiences, and emotion. When she brings up a memory you shared, comments on something meaningful, or subtly checks on how you are doing, she is navigating her own vulnerability while signaling that she still values the connection. Observing this without overinterpreting allows you to remain grounded and rational, seeing the act for what it is, rather than embellishing it with imagined intentions. Another aspect of indirect communication is its consistency over time. These gestures may not always be dramatic or frequent, yet when they recur, they reveal a pattern. A casual message asking how your day went, an inside joke sent at just the right moment, or a reference to something meaningful from your shared past can indicate a persistent presence in her mind. Stoicism emphasizes understanding patterns and recognizing what is within your control. Her communication is hers, but your perception and response are within your control. By noting these subtle cues with calm awareness, you cultivate discernment and avoid being swept away by impulse or assumption. It is also worth noting that indirect signals are often richer than direct expressions because they rely on shared understanding and history. They carry layers of meaning that require attention and observation, not reaction. Stoics teach that perception should be equal and reasoned, distinguishing between what is significant and what is irrelevant. When she recalls a shared moment, it is not merely nostalgia, it is a quiet assertion of connection, a reminder that her thoughts still touch the bond between you. Recognizing this without clinging or seeking more than what is offered allows you to respond appropriately with equanimity and respect. Indirect communication is a subtle test of presence and awareness. It invites you to pay attention to context, timing, and shared history, cultivating patience and mindfulness. Stoicism frames these moments as lessons in observation and self-control. You learn not to react impulsively to fleeting emotions, but to appreciate the reality of connection. However quietly it is expressed, each small signal becomes a window into her ongoing engagement, an opportunity to understand human behavior, and a practice in remaining centered despite uncertainty. In these quiet, understated acts, there is a depth of meaning that often goes unnoticed. She may not declare her feelings openly, but her attention, thoughtfulness, and subtle gestures reveal a continued bond. Stoicism encourages you to perceive these truths calmly, without desire or expectation, and to respond with virtue and clarity. By observing and understanding her indirect communication, you recognize the enduring threads of connection and cultivate the patience, awareness, and emotional resilience that guide meaningful human relationships. Even the smallest efforts to stay connected reveal more than words ever could. She may not make grand gestures, she may not announce her presence boldly, but the quiet ways she maintains contact demonstrate that she is still engaged with your life. It might be a message checking how your day went, a comment on something you shared online, or reaching out when she senses you need support. These actio, NS, though subtle, are deliberate. They show that despite distance or uncertainty, she still values the connection you share. From a Stoic perspective, recognizing these efforts without attachment allows you to see reality clearly. You understand that her choices are hers alone, and your response can be guided by reason rather than desire. The effort she makes, even if minimal, carries significance because it requires intention. People rarely act without thought, especially in matters of emotional connection. When she takes the time to reach out or engage, it signals that she is still present, still choosing to invest in the bond, however small that investment may seem. Stoicism teaches that perception must be measured and deliberate. These signs are neither guarantees nor obligations. They are simply indicators of her ongoing interest. By observing them without overinterpreting, you cultivate patience and clarity, learning to appreciate the reality of the relationship without being consumed by expectation or fear. It is also important to notice the consistency of effort. Even sporadic or understated attempts to maintain contact show a persistent thread of care. Life is busy, and maintaining any form of connection requires intentionality. If she reaches out repeatedly, even in small ways, it reveals that the bond still matters to her. Stoic philosophy emphasizes the importance of understanding patterns and recognizing what is within your control. Her choices are hers, and your task is to observe them with calm discernment. You cannot dictate her actions, but you can interpret them accurately, responding in a way that reflects virtue and reason. The manner in which she maintains connection can also reflect her emotional balance. Some people express care through direct attention, others through subtle reminders of shared experiences or gentle check-ins. Recognizing the method and appreciating it for what it is helps you understand her mindset without forcing expectations onto her. Stoicism teaches us that attachment to outcomes leads to suffering, whereas observing actions objectively allows us to respond with composure. When she makes an effort, it is not an obligation for you to interpret it as proof of permanent attachment or commitment. It is simply evidence of continued engagement, which you can acknowledge without losing your own balance. Effort to maintain connection also provides insight into her priorities, even when she seems busy, distracted, or emotionally reserved. Choosing to connect indicates that you remain part of her mental and emotional landscape. Stoicism encourages you to perceive this reality calmly, recognizing the human tendency to balance multiple responsibilities and relationships. Appreciating her efforts without expecting more than she is willing to give allows you to interact with integrity, empathy, and awareness. It fosters a relationship of observation rather than projection, of understanding rather than demand. Ultimately, recognizing the subtle ways she maintains connection is an exercise in clarity and presence. Stoicism teaches that life is composed of actions and signals, each meaningful when observed without distortion. Her ongoing engagement, expressed through small gestures of effort, demonstrates that she is not entirely finished with the relationship. By observing these moments with patience and discernment, you practice the Stoic virtues of awareness, self-control, and acceptance. Even small actions carry significance, and understanding them allows you to navigate human relationships with wisdom and composure. One of the clearest indicators that she is not fully done with you lies in the way she responds emotionally to certain moments or topics. These reactions may appear disproportionate or sudden, catching you off guard, but they are revealing. When she becomes noticeably affected by something you say or do, whether it is a question about your life, a shared memory, or even a seemingly small remark, it shows that she is still emotionally invested. Stoicism teaches that emotions are natural, and while we cannot always control how others feel, we can observe these reactions with clarity and without letting them disturb our inner peace. Her emotional triggers are signals, reflections of her continued attachment and the depth of her feelings, even if she does not express them directly. It is important to understand that these triggers are not necessarily intentional. She may not be consciously testing you or trying to provoke a response. Human emotions are complex, layered, and often unpredictable. Stoicism encourages us to view such reactions as information rather than a personal affront or a reflection of our worth. When she reacts strongly, it is a window into her state of mind, revealing that your presence and the shared history you have with her still matter. Recognizing this requires patience, attention, and an ability to separate her feelings from your own, observing without being swept away by instinctive reactions. Emotional triggers also provide an opportunity for reflection. Stoicism emphasizes self-awareness and the practice of examining our responses to external events. When she displays heightened emotion, it is not only a signal of her lingering feelings, but also a mirror reflecting your own inner world. How you respond in these moments, whether with calm understanding, impatience, or anxiety, reveals your own growth in emotional discipline. By observing both her reactions and your own, you practice the Stoic art of maintaining equilibrium, acknowledging reality without being controlled by it. Her emotional responses become lessons in patience, discernment, and reasoned action. Another dimension of emotional triggers is that they highlight unresolved feelings or unfinished conversations. Even when she appears distant or reserved, certain topics can ignite visible responses, indicating that the emotional bond is still alive beneath the surface. Stoics remind us that life is a series of interactions shaped by nature, circumstance, and human attachment. Observing these moments without judgment allows us to gain clarity about the ongoing dynamics of connection. Rather than attempting to manipulate or control her emotions, we notice them, understand them, and use that understanding to navigate the relationship with virtue and wisdom. It is also worth noting that emotional triggers, when observed mindfully, offer insight into the values and priorities that guide her behavior. The situations that provoke a reaction often reveal what matters most to her, what she holds dear, and where her lingering attachment lies. Stoicism teaches that clarity comes from perception without distortion. By seeing these signals as reflections of her values rather than personal judgments or tests, you can respond appropriately, remaining balanced and composed while appreciating the depth of human emotion. Ultimately, these emotional cues are not obstacles or sources of confusion. They are opportunities for understanding, for growth, and for practicing patience. She may not articulate her feelings explicitly, but her reactions speak volumes. Observing them with calm, reasoned attention allows you to see the enduring presence of attachment and connection. Stoicism encourages us to accept this reality without clinging, to interpret these signals wisely, and to cultivate the virtues of emotional resilience, awareness, and thoughtful response. By reflecting on her triggers, you gain insight into both her heart and your own, and navigating human relationships with clarity and composure. Sometimes, the clearest signs that she is not done with you are not in what she says or even consciously does, but in the subtle, subconscious signals she sends. These are the gestures, expressions, and patterns that often escape deliberate notice, yet reveal lingering attachment. It might be the way her eyes light up when she sees you, a fleeting smile when you enter a room, or an instinctive hesitation when discussing someone else. These moments are natural and unfiltered, expressions of the mind and heart that cannot easily be controlled. Stoicism teaches us to observe such signs with calm awareness, recognizing them as truth without clinging, interpreting them without projection. In these quiet, almost imperceptible behaviors, the depth of lingering connection often shows itself more clearly than in words or deliberate actions. Subconscious signals are powerful because they are authentic. They are not performed or calculated, they arise naturally, revealing what lies beneath the surface. A subtle touch, a pause in conversation, or even the way she mirrors your movements can indicate a continued emotional bond. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of perception and reasoned judgment. Observing these signs allows you to see reality as it is, rather than how you wish it to be. You are not trying to manipulate or force meaning, but simply recognizing that human connection leaves traces, even when it is not fully acknowledged. These traces, however small, are often the most honest indicators of lingering attachment. Another aspect of subconscious signals is their consistency across time and context. Even when she is engaged in other aspects of life, these small, instinctive behaviors reappear, showing patterns that cannot be easily ignored. A glance, a laugh, or a gesture may seem minor in isolation, but repeat. TED instances reveal a continuing emotional presence. Stoics remind us that patterns are meaningful, and understanding them allows us to respond with clarity rather than impulse. By observing these cues calmly, you gain insight into the persistence of her connection without becoming attached to the outcome or demanding explanations. It is also worth noting that subconscious signals often communicate more than conscious words. People may deliberately hide their feelings out of fear, pride, or uncertainty, but the subconscious does not lie. A lingering look, a brief hesitation, or an instinctive response to your presence can reveal emotions she may not express overtly. Stoicism encourages us to interpret these signs with reason, appreciating their significance while maintaining our own inner equilibrium. Recognizing these subconscious signals requires mindfulness and patience, virtues central to the Stoic way of life, allowing you to navigate complex human relationships without being overwhelmed by emotion. Moreover, these subtle cues are a reminder of the depth and complexity of human attachment. Emotional bonds are rarely erased quickly or completely. They leave traces that manifest in ways both conscious and unconscious. Observing these traces teaches the importance of awareness and discernment. Stoicism reminds us to accept reality as it is, understanding human nature and perceiving connection without being consumed by desire or expectation. Her subconscious signals reflect a lingering presence, and your awareness of them cultivates insight, patience, and thoughtful observation. Ultimately, the smallest, quietest signs often speak the loudest. Even when she does not consciously act on her feelings, these subconscious gestures reveal a bond that persists beyond words. Stoicism guides us to perceive these signals with clarity, to acknowledge the reality of attachment without clinging to it, and to respond with wisdom and virtue. In these subtle expressions, we find the evidence of enduring connection, the reflection of human emotion, and the opportunity to practice discernment, patience, and mindful presence. Recognizing the truth of her subconscious attachment allows you to navigate relationships with composure, understanding, and respect for both her heart and your own.